September 16th, 2024, regular session meeting of the Cinnaminson Township Committee is now called to order. Everyone please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231. Notice of this meeting was published in the Burlington County Times and the Courier Post on January 8th, 2024. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Horner?
Here.
Mr. McGill?
Here.
Mr. Seagrass?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Crayville?
Present.
Mayor Kondo?
Here.
Thank you.
Tonight we have committee liaison reports, so we'll start with Committee Member Horner, Finance and Economic Development.
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing to report this evening. I do anticipate an extensive report in October.
Okay, thank you very much. Committee Member Seagrass, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things. Cinnaminson's annual Fall Cleanup Day is scheduled for September 28th from 8 a.m. to noon at the Public Works facility located at 1601 Union Landing Road. Residents may bring tires with and without the rims, paint, batteries, except lithium batteries, electronics, TVs, motor oil, cooking oil, household chemicals, and trash. Brush and leaves can be dropped off at the resident drop-off area at the entrance closest to the Walmart. One more note, October is the last month for the 2024 that residents may place brush at their curb for collection. Brush will not be collected again until March 2025. Let me see, one more note. Construction is underway on two projects in town, Morgan Avenue and Taylor's Lane. Please obey any traffic detours in that area. Night paving is scheduled for Taylor's Lane starting the week of September 16th. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Seagrass. Committee Member McGill, Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have quite a few things, so hopefully we'll get out of here by midnight. Okay, the monthly report for August, total incidents responded to were 2,662. Total arrests made were 8. Total property checks, 896. Total motor vehicle stops, 271. Total motor vehicle summonses issued, 197. And total DWI arrests, 21. For Morgan Cemetery, there was no calls for service, just normal property checks. And there's a few interesting incidents noteworthy that I'd like to bring to the attention. We have a theft investigation arrest. August 5th, 2024, Officer Dominic Ellie responded to Precision Automation Company, 2303 Gary Road, for a report of copper that was stolen off multiple AC units. Further investigation revealed 2 entire commercial air conditioning units have been stolen in addition to the copper piping surrounding the 2 AC units. Total damages and repairs were estimated to be approximately $30,000. After reviewing nearby video surveillance of surrounding businesses, it was determined that the theft occurred on the previous day. With the assistance of crime analyst Christine Painter, the subject was identified. An interview was conducted by Officer Ellie and Officer Adam Summers, during which the suspect admitted to the theft and was charged accordingly. As a result of the investigation, it was discovered that the suspect was also involved in numerous related incidents that occurred in several surrounding municipalities. Second one is a suspect apprehended in cargo theft incident at the Pilot truck stop. August 28, 2024, approximately 1:43 a.m., Lieutenant Michael Curran was on patrol near the Pilot truck stop when he observed a white Ford cargo van parked illegally on Union Landing Road. Lieutenant Curran initiated his investigation and witnessed 2 individuals burglarizing a refrigerated trailer at the location. Upon approaching, one suspect entered the van and attempted to flee, while the other ran into the truck stop. Lieutenant Curran attempted to stop the van, which entered the truck stop, in order to pick up his accomplice, who fled on foot. When the suspect operating the van was unsuccessful picking up his accomplice, the vehicle exited the business onto Route 130 South. Lieutenant Curran began chasing the other suspect, who fled on foot. After a brief foot pursuit, the suspect was apprehended near the truck stop without incident. The investigation revealed that the suspects had broken into a trailer and attempted to steal approximately $8,500 worth of frozen seafood. It's a lot to carry. The suspect was charged and lodged in Burlington County Jail. Next one is a burglary arrest at Haynes Farm and Garden Supply. September 5, 2024, officers dispatched to Haynes Farm and Garden Supply, 196 Route 130 North, in response to a burglary. A witness reported discovering stolen merchandise from the business loaded into a wheelbarrow, including a dirt bike. The witness also observed a suspect fleeing on foot. The officers set up a perimeter with assistance from Riverton, Mapleshade, and Palmyra, and initiated a search with K-9 unit. Witnesses described seeing a suspect matching the description running toward Route 130 North with an object under his arm. While patrolling near Church Road in Lenola, Officer Joseph Foggia, heard rustling in a wooded area. After setting up a perimeter and conducting a search, officers spotted the suspect attempting to hide. Despite commands to surrender, the suspect fled on foot but was quickly apprehended. The suspect was charged accordingly and transferred to another jurisdiction for processing and was eventually lodged in Burlington County Jail. One more. CDS arrest. On 9/10/2024, Officer Sicali conducted a suspicious vehicle check on a vehicle parked inside Memorial Park after park hours. He discovered the suspect passed out in the driver's seat. The suspect displayed signs of possible narcotics usage, and Officer Sicali soon thereafter deployed his K-9 partner Bain. K-9 Bain positively alerted for the presence of narcotics on the vehicle, and a search was conducted. Officers McGugan, Leibfried, and how was that Zig? How do you pronounce that guy's his name?
I did it once.
Officer Z. All respond. What is it? What he said. All responded to the location and assisted during the incident. The search of the vehicle yielded 300 bags of heroin, drug paraphernalia, bottles of methadone, along with a large sum of cash. The suspect was arrested, charged, and released on her own recognizance. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my lengthy report.
Thank you, Mr. McGill. Deputy Mayor Cravel, Parks and Recreation and Veterans Affairs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For Parks and Recreation, we are hosting Cinnaminson Township's Music Festival on Friday, September 27th at 5 p.m. at Wood Park. There will be live music on 2 stages, food trucks, breweries, and fireworks to close out the evening. Bring the whole family, as there will be something for everyone. We will be hosting a fall townwide yard sale on Saturday, October 12th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. To register your address, please email cturner@cinnaminson.nj.org. We will send out reminders and updates leading up until October 12th. And also Trunk or Treat, which will be scheduled for Friday, October 25th. More information and registration details will be coming out over the next couple of weeks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And for myself, Administration and Health and Senior Services, I have no report this evening, which takes us to a presentation. We have Environmental Resources Incorporated to present a rough sketch, basically, of an active transportation and micro-mobility plan. If I could put that into English, I think it's a pedestrian and bicyclist circulation type of situation.
Correct. It's also like the motorized bikes and scooters, those kinds of things.
Ways to connect, I'm hoping, one side of 130 to the other would be nice. But
Yes, it would. It'd be nice to breach that wall.
yes, sir.
I am Dave Benedetti, Senior Planner at Environmental Resolutions. I have with me Patrick Van Burnham. He's an assistant planner, and he's the brains of the presentation tonight as far as the PowerPoint. So we're looking at an active transportation and micromobility, and that would be going to take us to, going to need to prepare a vision statement, which basically we need to look at the future and try to make sure that what we envision is what happens as best we can anticipate. A vision statement needs to be focused. It needs to be narrow in its focus so that it does not distract and wander off. You want to keep people going in the same direction. And it also has to be feasible. What the recommendations are would need to be feasible for everyone to keep working on the project and making sure that that vision comes to fruition. And it also has to be desirable for the broad population of the township, because if it's not what they want, it's not going to happen. The goals and objectives are also part of this whole project. And the goals and strategic objectives, they should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be achievable, relatable, and they should also be time-oriented. They should be able to put into a schedule as to when it can or can't be done. Next, we're having the active transportation and micromobility. Okay. Which would be prioritizing active transportation networks, roads, bikes, pedestrian paths, and we also want to ensure that there are means of transportation for all ages. So even we would be looking at wheelchairs, handicap accessibility, sidewalk linkages, making sure that there are sidewalk linkages, and where there aren't, trying to prioritize them as to where they will be put in the future. We're also looking at complete streets, adoption of a complete streets policy, and designing streets so that they meet the needs of the entire population. Economic and health benefits also would go for making sure that traffic is moving in a way that it will make sure that commerce and businesses are able to actively pursue their endeavors. And you want to take it from?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I wasn't clicking through. I apologize.
I'm on 7.
So like Dave mentioned, those are kind of some of the general themes that we're seeing in, transportation planning and looking at the pedestrian realm and sort of what improvements we can make, and what generally is recommended, maybe best practices is, what people will hear. Also, as part of this plan, on the next slide, we're planning on looking to do an analysis on the features in the township in terms of destinations and Got it. In terms of destinations, attractors, things like that, where people are walking to, how they're getting there, and sort of an analysis and an opinion on that. Dave, if you want to go to the next slide there. So some of the three realms that we've kind of highlighted in terms of institutional uses and community destinations. The first one being institutional buildings, looking at your government facilities that become crucial at specific times, whether it be tax season, voting season, things like that, making sure that people have adequate access. Another realm that is very important in the township is schools. There's kind of a spread among schools in the town on the northern side of Route 130 and the southern side of Route 130. And, this plan is envisioned to see how it can prioritize access to the schools and how you can mitigate any conflict points along the Route 130 corridor. That also includes, like Dave had mentioned, keeping in mind just non-walkers as well in terms of e-scooters, cyclists, things like that. And finally, the third realm that we're sort of looking at in terms of attractors are in the open space and recreation, like we heard before, where we have events happening at Wood Park and events happening at the various open space centers in the township, and how you can provide more access options for people throughout, other than everyone kind of crawling over the pedestrian bridge right outside of the door. Looking first at where people are going and where the destinations are would be one of the first steps for the plan. In doing this, we envision, on the next slide, to elicit some level of community engagement in order to get the actual opinions of people. This doesn't really have an anticipated form yet. This is sort of in the distance in terms of how we're going to elicit it. We recently had a pretty successful project amongst Dave and I of doing community surveys, public community surveys, where mapping and sort of emotionally saying this is where I want to go, this is how I get there was pretty feasible. But whatever is the best option for the township for this plan is what we'd like to pursue. So at this point, we just know that we're going to have that community feedback element. If you want to go to the next slide. So we talked about sort of points, places where people like to go. I like to go here. I like to go to this address. The second element is how do people get there? What's the routes that they take? How do they prefer to get there? And can they be improved from a pedestrian and sort of the ground level standpoint outside of the car? On the next slide, Dave. There's been prior planning efforts that have looked at this in the township, both in the past and then they've sort of kind of have not been upkept in recent years. DVRPC has done work in terms of analysis on Route 130 and along the river towns and seeing how they can improve access there. I believe the most recent plan that the DVRPC released was in the mid-2000s specifically for improvements. Don't quote me on that. I only work for ERI, not for DVRPC. But we're going to be looking at the plans that the DVRPC has produced. In addition to, they have some really great statistics that can be used to identify problem areas. Dave used the term sidewalk gaps before, and sort of looking at where the broken linkages are, and they could potentially be areas to prioritize for improvements. And then finally, they maintain a series of regional crash statistics in terms of fatality and severity and things like that. So we'd probably be looking to use DVRPC statistics for that as well, to look at what intersections may be troublesome in terms of pedestrian and vehicular conflict, which we're trying to mitigate and avoid with this plan. In addition to DVRPC, we're looking to use information from NJDOT in terms of any plans that they have for intersections in the township. In addition to any plans that they may have to install sidewalks along Route 130, that is something that we've seen in several towns up and down the Route 130 corridor, is incorporating the land to install some sidewalks and sort of how any plans can be worked with the state in their endeavors. There's also an analysis on the Department of Transportation's Complete Streets policy, where one of the intersections, or one of the areas in the township was actually cited. The traffic circle outside of the ShopRite was cited as an example of sort of how to incorporate different complete streets policies. So that kind of gives you an example of, the level of improvement that we could see, because that was a pretty big intervention in the township when that occurred. Finally, looking at the county's resources, the county adopted a bicycle master plan in 2014 that highlighted 2 of the county routes that run through the township that could be potential for bike paths in the future, kind of identified as something could go here in terms of access and usability, and looking to see if that's realistically feasible. In addition to, the county released its highway master plan 5 years ago in 2019. So we want to take that information, but actually apply it to the geometry of the township and what constraints there may be in terms of the rights of way. In discussing this, Dave and I were looking at different parts of the township, and I used the example of Union Landing Road and saying, well, that's a pretty narrow roadway. Trying to install any sort of non-vehicular infrastructure there would be pretty tight, and it may not be the safest route. And so that would be an example of maybe a roadway that could be more constrained than others, which may be larger rights of way. So really just looking at what physical restrictions may be in place, and then how can we work with the different, variety of rights of way in the township. And using that would also just be looking at some of the recommended best practices, both by the APA, American Society of Civil Engineers, and traffic engineers. So like we mentioned before, including the engineering background in this. If you want to go to the next slide, Dave. So all of this would lead to the recommendations that would come out of the report. This would, like I mentioned, analyze feedback from the community, prior plans, feedback from other plans that have been made, and sort of what is envisioned by other governmental entities around the township. Also looking at current transportation trends and sort of how they can be incorporated into a set of recommendations for the township to consider, and how they can be incorporated, how trends can be incorporated, so that we're providing access that is current and is wanted to be used by many people. Next slide, Dave. So I noted in the header here that this is somewhat to be determined. This would be sort of the end result, and we're not putting the cart before the horse here. We want to do the legwork, and we want to know what would work best in the township. But just some examples that we drew up in terms of what could be in the realm of recommendations. Like we mentioned at the start of this meeting, looking at linkages of Route 130 and how pedestrian connectivity can be examined there, and how they could make sense and be feasible in terms of use. Looking at different facilities, so improvements, and these are like the physical new things to add. So, for example, bike boxes or improved crosswalks or attenuated crosswalks, something to kind of draw to potentially the safety and the enhanced usability of the pedestrian, bicycle, e-scooter network, the whole nine. One of the things that we also considered is imagery and sort of the aesthetics. That goes sort of with the prior point of people want to use it. So improving the aesthetics, improving wayfinding was one of the things that we pointed out as being important to help bridge the gap between both sides of Route 130, and incorporating more wayfinding of this is how you can get from either side to the other. These are the destinations to get to, sort of what the distance is to get there, and making sure that people are taking the safest route to get there. Looking at if paths and routes and different multimodal paths are possible, pedestrian paths, and identifying areas for improvements or installations of that. This plan also is going to look to the funding for this and how, maybe different plan elements, like Dave mentioned, incorporating a complete streets policy could unlock more potential funds from the state in terms of making these improvements, so that the township doesn't have to shoulder the cost of it. So exploring different funding opportunities is going to be a part of this. And I mentioned it kind of at the start that schools are one of the larger destinations because of the emphasis on safety that's placed on them. And that's going to be a key element in this too, is how you can improve safety for pedestrians, and how you can prioritize their safety across all areas of the township and wherever they may be walking or biking or rolling or however. If you want to move on to the next slide. And so now we're kind of at the conclusion. This is sort of the wrap up for what the plan should entail, what we're envisioning the plan to entail after working with the township, and sort of how the implementation, the agenda, and other things can be incorporated into the report. If you want to go to the next slide, Dave. So part of this is looking at, finding key areas to focus on, both by looking at destinations and by looking at routes and linkages. That's one thing that we've talked about. Including more infrastructure for electric scooters and bicycles and other, micro mobile realm technology and utilities, so that you have a complete network of routes for people to get around. And that leads us into complete streets and looking at recommendations that could be incorporated along Route 130 and looking at where complete streets may be applicable throughout the township to sort of improve from that major spine that runs through. And as we mentioned before, a lot of this would, focus on pedestrian and bicycle planning. When looking at the township's master planning efforts of 2009, there was a large emphasis based on improving the vehicular network at the time, with mention of, improving pedestrian and cyclist and micromobile facilities in the network later. We think that we're kind of at the point now where the improvements may have been made, or that has been recommended for several years, over a decade at this point, and maybe the next step is looking at that pedestrian and bicycle recommendation and sort of how we can improve connectivity for all. Next slide there, Dave. Building into that, looking at how any amendments or recommendations, designed can support all residents. As Dave mentioned before, people of all abilities, people that, may be aging in the community that, require special attention in terms of safe infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure, and promoting kind of healthier lifestyles, incorporating more local economic development by increasing foot traffic and sort of allowing more access throughout the township. To do this, and we mentioned in terms of we're planning on having multiple meetings on this. This isn't the only one. We're not going to go away. We'll be here. But we envision having a community meeting in terms of eliciting that public feedback, like I mentioned before, or several of them, not just one. Several planning board meetings to make sure that the plan is consistent with the township's master planning goals and efforts. And then, we'll be around to answer questions throughout the planning process, and work with the township as needed. There's definitely questions about this, and there's definitely areas that could be improved, and it's a building process, identifying, this could be a potential for a link, and so we're intending to be around for that. So on the next slide, we want to thank you for your time, and we're here for any feedback, questions, anything specific. As this was sort of the kickoff of the plan, inevitably it's going to be sort of just the starting point. And after tonight, we're looking to how we can take this and kind of move forward with the plan. So thank you for your time, and any questions, we're here.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have a question? Okay, so I for one am a person who rides a bicycle, and I walk, not as much as I should, but this township is not a great place to do either of those things in. Just I guess a quick yes or no. Does everybody on committee think it's a worthwhile cause to pursue this further? I mean,
Yes,
we good?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, so I think the next step is to get Mr. Schubiger to get together with you guys and see what the first actual steps of this process would be.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to move forward with it because I'm tired of carrying my bicycle over that ramp.
I do have a story about, so if you'll humor me for a minute, I have a quick story, and I was telling Dave about it when we were starting this process. So I'm pretty local to the township. I grew up in Riverton. I'm very familiar with the area, and as soon as we started talking about this, I said, Dave, when I was a kid, I took my bike to go play basketball at Wood Park, and I took it up the steps, and then I took it down, and by the time I got to the bottom, the chain had fallen off, and my friends' chains didn't. And so they rode, and they were playing basketball by the time I caught up after I got my chain on. So any improvements that can be made, and any linkages-
improvements we can make with the
I've been there.
pedestrian. Okay, there you go. So any improvements we can make with regard to pedestrian and bicycle circulation would be wonderful. So I say we start this. What's that?
Mind if I have a question?
Go right ahead.
I just want to clarify. So you referenced the master plan and how it relates to this proposed plan. So the township authorized and got approved our master plan reexamination, I think in 19 we did that,
Was it 18
Yes.
or 19? Yeah.
in that area. So you referenced it, 2009 actual plan, but as it pertains to this would be something that hopefully a culmination of all this work would be to include this element into our master plan? Is that the goal, or how
I
does
should
that
have been
work?
clearer in that. So the township's last specific circulation plan element update as part of master planning took place in 2009. That was the last time the circulation plan was updated. And so this, we were discussing in terms of how it could function with the master planning documents. Potentially it could be an addenda or an amendment to the circulation plan element, because that's really where it fits into. And then in future reexamination processes and master planning processes, this would be incorporated as parts of the master plan.
Or you may even decide you want to do a new circulation element too, as we move forward too.
Depending on how this all plays out, there's some
Correct.
options for us. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Next discussion item is the backyard chicken ordinance. Our Chicken Advisory Board Chairperson, Janice Smith, is here this evening to provide us with the current status.
This is my favorite thing, right, public speaking. Janice Smith, 109 Purnell Ave, Cinnaminson. So my request was, well, let me start by saying we have maximum of 25 licenses available. So my request was to push that to 30. And currently, we are allowed 8 hens, and I wanted to push that to 8. As for the number of licenses, we have 22 residents currently approved and/or working towards approval. I think I have about 4 that are in the midst of building their coop and run, so they will be approved. So we're pushing that limit. I'm in contact with them, so I know they're physically working on those things. And as for 8, that seems to be the maximum number of ordinances in other towns that have similar demographics to us, and it seems to work well for those towns. So that's why I'm requesting 8. Currently, we're 6. And to date, and to my knowledge, I do not think that we've had any complaints about legal chicken owners. So,
Kevin, any complaints or questions or problems with them?
I think the program's gone pretty well as far as I'm concerned, based upon the information that I have and calls, so
There you
I
go.
appreciate all your efforts.
yeah, no, I appreciate you guys listening to me talk about chickens.
So you're looking at the number of hens to go from
6 to 8.
to 8?
Yes.
Okay, and the number of licenses from 25 to
25
30?
to 30.
Okay.
Yeah, and, I feel like that would, I haven't had a huge amount of interest this year. A lot of people.
How
didn't
many
begin-
current licenses did you say are out?
22 right now, and that is approved and/or working towards approval,
Okay.
meaning that they're
So
building.
we actually have 3 open licenses
Yeah.
at this point. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Great.
does anybody have any other questions? Or?
Yes.
Okay, what's up?
So if you're gonna increase the hen from 6 to 8, that's what you're asking. I know the coop has certain dimensional requirements. Are you also asking for that to be increased?
No,
to
because
accommodate?
it's 4 square feet per bird.
Okay,
So,
so
no
the coop
larger than
doesn't
100
have to
square
go
feet.
any larger than
Nope.
it is now? You're just
Has to be
putting
4
2
square
more
feet
hens in there.
per hen, and the run has to be 10 square feet per hen.
Okay.
So 8 chickens, 80, square foot run. Don't make me do the math on the coop. Been there, done that. But any other questions? Or-
Nope, we good?
No, ma'am.
I'm good.
Okay.
You good? Okay.
I think we're good. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
All right, next is an ordinance introduction. This is ordinance 2024-10, amending the Code of Ordinances to adopt a new Chapter 441 entitled Stormwater Management Requirements and Controls for Major Development. It should be advertised in the Burlington County Times. Public hearing to be October 21st, 2024 at 6:30 PM. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2024-9?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Seegers. May I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. McGill. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Horner.
Just to clarify, is it 2024-9 or 2024-10?
Oh. Thank you for catching that.
Good call.
It
Good
is
catch.
10. Okay. So 2024-10, aye.
Thank you. Mr. McGill?
Aye.
Mr. Seegers?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Craybill?
Aye.
Mayor Kondo?
Aye.
Good catch, Ryan.
That's good. I missed that one.
Me too.
All right, which brings us to the consent agenda, which is fairly short. We have Resolution 2024-107, authorizing the cancellation of taxes for totally disabled veteran, Block 1709, Lot 6. Tax assessor Dennis DeClerc has confirmed that the property owner meets the criteria for the eligibility of this benefit. Resolution 2024-108, authorizing the cancellation of taxes for totally disabled veteran, Block 3412, Lot 8. Tax assessor Dennis DeClerc has also confirmed that this property owner meets the criteria for the eligibility of benefit. Resolution 2024-109, authoring a property lien, Block 1704, Lot 2. Director of Community Development, Michael Minton, has recommended that a lien is placed on the following property due to property maintenance violations, which required the township's Public Works Department to remediate. Resolution 2024-110, authorizing a property lien on Block 2901, Lot 61. Also, Community Development Director Mike Minton has recommended that a lien is placed on the following property due to property maintenance violation that also required the township's Public Works Department to remediate. And we have two raffles this evening, one for the Food Bank of New Jersey for 11/14/24, and one for St. Charles Borromeo Church for 10/12/2024. And that is the end of the consent agenda. May I have a motion to open public comment on the consent agenda items only?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor, to open up public comment on consent and agenda items only.
Thank you, Mr. McGill. I will second that. Can I have a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Okay, public comment on the consent agenda is now open. Please state your name and address for the record. You good? Just for the consent agenda items for now. Okay, seeing no one come forward, may I have a motion to close public comment on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to close public comment on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. McGill. Voice vote, please. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. May I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
We need a roll call vote here, correct?
Yes. Mr. Horner.
Aye.
Mr. McGill.
Aye.
Mr. Seegers.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Craybill.
Aye.
Mayor Kondo?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next is the minutes. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of August 19, 2024, as read. Can we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Horner.
Aye.
Mr. McGill.
Aye.
Mr. Seegers.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Craybill.
Aye.
Mayor Kondo?
Aye.
Thank you.
And it's now time to pay the bills. So may I have a motion to approve the bill list?
I'll make a motion to approve the bill list.
May I have a second?
I'll second that, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Horner.
Aye.
Mr. McGill.
Aye.
Mr. Seeger.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Cagle.
Aye.
Mayor Koval.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any staff and professional comments, staff or professional comments for this evening? Anybody?
I have a couple, Mayor, if that's okay.
Sure.
First, I just want to thank Environmental Resolutions for coming out tonight, giving that presentation. I've had the opportunity in the past, prior to working here with you guys, to be part of a project like that. I found it to be a good experience and very helpful. I think it'll be something that'll be good for the community. I'll work with all of you and our staff to get that going. Sounds like I have the authority to do that tonight, so I think it'll be a nice project for us. And there will be members of the community and our professionals involved, so just looking forward to that. Number two, I just have to say, and our superintendent of public works is here tonight. I've received two sort of accommodations from agencies about our public works department recently, and for something that a lot of people wouldn't know about. Our public works department, led by Mr. Gaunt and all the employees over there, they have a training and development room at our public works facility, which is pretty neat because we undergo a lot of training in person, but also online. And our municipal JIF, the Garden State Municipal JIF, has highlighted our town, Cinnaminson, for having that because they don't see it all the time. And that's good for us, hopefully good for our premium. And also, recently, a federal agency was in looking at how we operate. And they made a comment, I believe, to Mr. Gaunt just last week, that they typically see that in a police department. And by the way, our police department has a great training and development room as well, as many people might know that. But for public works, I think it's kind of different and really great. So that's the kind of staff we have who find training and development important, and I wanted everyone to know that. And then finally, quickly, the trap neuter return, do I have that right? Information we received recently. I've been going through our existing code and then the model ordinance that you shared with us. I'm going to be working with our township solicitor on that and trying to put together some recommendations for the governing body very soon. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Segenario, you good?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I can open the floor to public comment. May I have a motion to open public comment?
Make the motion to open public comment. Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mr. McGill. May I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Segrist. Voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Okay, public comment is now open. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Wendy Sanders, 372 Boxwood Lane. I'm back talking about cats. I appreciate you saying, you reached out to me, so that's all right. We'll
try
figure
again.
that out. I'll wait till tomorrow, and that's all. I'll wait. No, I'm just kidding. So today I have some people with me because the cat thing is just not me in Cinnaminson trying to fight for cats. There's a lot of people that advocate for animals in general. So I just reached out to a few people that I thought maybe could show up here like at last minute. Caitlin Purdy is a Cinnaminson resident who reached out to the Friends of the Burlington County Animal Shelter in May of 2023 because she had some unfixed cats who gave birth to kittens in her yard, and she wasn't sure what to do, so she reached out to Fobkiss, and they in turn reached out to me because I live in Cinnaminson. So I reached out to Caitlin, coordinated, gave her lessons on how to trap, and now, if she's still here, she now does all kinds of trapping and rescue and kitten rescue on her own. So, yay. I have here Sue Harbridge and Joe Rizzi. They reached out to me at one point in 2020 because they had kittens under their shed. Cat gave birth to kittens under their shed, 4 or 5 of them. They fostered them. Then I put them in touch with the rescue, and those kittens were able to get adopted. I'll go to Glenn Greenwood, I'm not sure. Okay, Glenn Greenwood is a business owner on Union Landing. He reached out to Fobkis. He had cats milling about his property. Fobkis reached out to me because I live in Cinnaminson. I met up with him and his wife and showed them how to trap, and they successfully trapped countless cats in that location. 10? A dozen? Yeah. So they're actively trapping still if they see a cat that is not fixed. So I thank them for that. They also took in one kitten, and then a little bit later they took that kitten's brother in, and then they took a third in. And now they have cats in his business, like a working cat program, which would be awesome to start. I don't think Linda's here, but Linda Horner was a woman that I helped in Cinnaminson on Pear Street, feeding countless cats for unknown amount of years, but I trapped over 20 cats and kittens and got them spay-neutered. Kathy and John Durr are not here. They live on Arbor, and they reached out because they had an unfixed mom cat with kittens, had those kittens put into a rescue, got adopted. Lastly, Linda Vaz Diaz is here with her friend Jean. They're longtime Cinnaminson residents and TNR advocates. I just recently met Linda through a mutual friend of ours, our vet. Linda, back in 2005 or 2005, 2006, she was feeding some cats that were all fixed, but because it was 20 years ago, I guess things were different then, and she got fined countless times and really had to deal with a lot because the ordinance was what it was. However, in thinking of that, I realized today the ordinance is no different today than it was then. So any of the people here are risking what she kind of trailblazed and had to deal with back then in terms of just trying to do the right thing. Lastly, Al Martino is here, and he is the adoption coordinator with the Burlington County Animal Alliance. Al actually has been in animal rescue for like 40 years. He has kittens that were rescues from Cinnaminson because of me that live in his house now because he was fostering them to be put up for adoption, and then we had a pandemic. And PetSmart closed, and the cat center closed, and so all those cats had to leave. And now Al's an owner of cats from Cinnaminson. So just because the cats are here doesn't mean it doesn't affect anybody who's working with animals. Beata Jerome is here. She is an extremely active trapper for the Friends of the Burlington County Animal Shelter. Every time I talk to her, she's in a tizzy because she's trapping, and that just proves that there's that many cats out there that need to be trapped. Again, we're all not from Cinnaminson, but for the most part we are, but it all affects everyone. Somebody just told me as they walked in that currently our county shelter is closed to intake for cats. And that's a problem because it opens up this venue of people saying, oh great, what am I gonna do with these kittens now? And they dump them, and they dump them, and they dump them. They're not fixed, and they make more. So it's really a never-ending battle. And for those of us who feel like we're doing the right thing, it's always there, it's always present. And so I think there's a lot of things that can be changed to improve. The cats are there. They're not going anywhere. To punish the people that are doing the best they can to do the right thing and to help the cats, to fix the cats, it's a community effort, but it's serving our community where we live. So I'm hoping to speak to Eric soon, and thank you for listening to me talk about cats. I think the first time I was here one of you said to me, "Thank you for doing what I do," and I thought that was ironic when I was thinking today, because you're thanking me today, but 20 years ago, Linda was punished. I mean, she paid fines and got arrested. So it's really, it's heartbreaking to know that you're just trying to be a good person and do the right thing. So I'm hoping that things will be different moving forward. So
I
thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add to the comment on the cats?
Come forward and come up here. State your name for that record, please. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bata Jerome. I'm actually Mount Laurel resident, but I'm very involved in cat community and rescuing. I've been doing it for 12 years plus. I work all over Burlington County, Camden County, various rescues. This is big passion of mine. Normally, I'm actually first responder. I'm also in business world, but this is something I do on the side. This is a huge part of my life. And what Wendy said, I want to ask, it's not only we are here for the cats, for the animals, but it's a ripple effect on communities. What people don't realize, when we do TNR, we don't only help the cats, we also help the neighborhoods. When we do TNR, we treat those cats for rabies, which we prevent spread of rabies if, God forbid, it's there. We vaccinate for other diseases. We do parasite control. We prevent population. So many people don't realize, people don't like cats. They said, oh, alcohol, animal control, they take care of the business. They'll trap them, kill them, because that's what they do. They don't realize that 6 months later, new population will come and will take over. Cats have been always a part of ecosystem. They're here, they will be here. Probably those generations were there before many of us, and this is how it is. They populate. The mom cat, the female cat will go in heat 3 times a year. Every time she will have kittens. Not all of them will survive, but they will keep populating. What we try to do, we try to control it. That's why we need help of you. We need help of townships to help us do that. This thing is very expensive, it's time consuming, it's emotional for us, but we do it not only for animals, but we also help communities. Aside from that, when those animals are and they're part of neighborhoods, they have all those obnoxious behavior, that's why the neighbors complain. Once we do TNR, that stops, or at least is limited, and that helps all the communities. People don't know the cats are territorial. Once we do the TNR, the cats will kind of guard their territory for newcomers come in. So even though our job is not done, it is done for certain community. And that will prevent many of the new offsprings, that will prevent diseases, that will prevent parasites, that will actually bring benefit not only to the cats, but also for the communities that we work with. We are all volunteers, we do it out of passion, we do it out of love for the animals, but we need support of townships to support us to do what we love to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joseph Rizzi, 316 Boxwood Lane. These ladies that preceded me, they may have said some statements that may have been minimized, I feel. They have done so much for the community. They have helped us TNR 13 cats. I have neighbors that come over and say, hey, your cat's digging in my yard. Whoa, it ain't my cat, buddy. It's the community's cat, all right? And if it wasn't for us and other people like this in our township, there'd be maybe thousands of freaking cats, okay? Atlantic City, they were overrun under their boardwalk. They had hundreds of people putting out hundreds of traps years ago. There aren't that many now. It takes a village. Yes, I'm sorry. It takes a village. We all have to get involved somehow or another. If you just ignore it. I grew up in South Philly, and we just ignored cats. Like, who gives a hoot about a cat, right? But they're overwhelming sometimes. I mean, we had 13 cats at one time on our steps. And with the help of these ladies, we were able to trap 1, 2, 3. It took us a year. And then we find 4 little kittens during the pandemic under the shed. They helped us. I mean, we had to defleet them every night. We both have jobs. We come home. We're defleeting little kittens and everything. Most of the times they'd be ignored, and then there's 4 more cats making dozens more. I just wanted to tell you that these ladies are like heroes in my eyes. I never gave a hoot about a cat, but these ladies made me see what is involved, and you have to just get out there. If you don't get out there, that's fine. Just don't break them for me while I'm doing the job, all right? Please.
Fair enough.
And as far as that goes, go Birds tonight. Let's go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We moved on from chickens.
What's that?
We've moved on from chickens.
No, I know. Are we still in a pilot, or is it an actual ordinance now? I can't
I don't
remember.
I think, was it a 2-year?
I think we did a 2-year pilot, right?
I think it's up for review and to make any potential changes that you're open to. I'll take a look at it when this.
So that was going to be my other request, is if we could move it into an actual ordinance and not a pilot. I mean, I'm good with another year of a pilot if you guys want to wait, but if not, I don't see any harm. Yeah, I know.
All right, we'll
I'm not
take a
going to
look
ask
at
for
it.
any more than 8, so. And thank you guys. You know, BCAS, 3 of my pets came from there, so thank you guys for what you're doing.
Ben Young, 116 Woodview Lane. First of all, I know I've always been an advocate of you having your 9/11 ceremony, and I missed it, and I apologize. I made the morning when in Moorestown, but I got stuck at a school in Philly, so I couldn't make it back. But thank you for having it.
Thank you.
We're talking about presentation on bike riding, and I know that Paul, Mayor, you've spoken in the past about you advocating for 130. But you know, I got rerouted recently. I usually go down through the shopping center to go to my office, but I've gotten rerouted because of some of the things going on over there and going up 130. Have you really walked along there and see what 10-foot of right-of-way would do to that neighborhood?
I have not walked the length of what is going to be in Cinnaminson, which, Ben, is about a half a mile. I know it's going to affect probably mostly where Pat's Pizza is, because it's going to take a bit of parking lot there in
A
Roswell's.
10-foot right-of-way will take away the drive-through at the veterinary clinic. That's how and it's going to cut out all the, I don't know where the landscaping goes for the dealership. And if you go up by Roswell, he ain't going to have any parking left.
Yeah,
and that's going to lose everything in the front.
That's a concern that was brought up during the meeting we had with the state. I think they're going to do a lot of rethinking before anything happens there.
I believe in the biking stuff, really, but it's a real danger out there. And you know, and if you tried to extend that down past the cemetery, I mean, we've got graves that are less than 10 feet.
Absolutely.
Goes all the way to the.
I think
We're going the other way. We're going from Andover towards.
Right now, it's Andover to the Bridgeboro Bridge.
Right.
And I quite honestly, I think that, my personal opinion, that's going to change significantly between now and 2029 when they're talking about doing
Right.
this.
I think it's the north part of Andover.
Yeah, from the north side of
goes to
Andover,
Andover north.
all the way through
Right.
Delran.
If that is north. It's north 130, but if that is north.
East-west, kind of, yeah.
The other part of this, and I happen to live this on a daily basis, is to realize that no kids wear helmets anymore. Bike
I've
helmets
noticed that.
have become passé. I'm not sure. The law's still in effect, isn't it?
It is, but it's almost impossible.
Yeah, hundreds of them, not hundreds of them, but probably 50 or 60 every day come by my house to middle school.
Oh, yeah.
And they also ride down the middle of the street, so I don't know what a bike path's going to do for you.
Oh, they ride down the middle of the street on one
Absolutely.
wheel, generally, like they own it. And I don't know how to even enforce that.
I don't either. And they're starting to challenge you if you're coming the other way.
So what you're saying is if you hit a couple, the rest will stop?
I don't know. I mean, gang up on you. The other good thing about what the presentation was tonight, to create more biking, I will say on the positives, is I've seen electric bikes now arrive at Memorial Park, and they're getting pretty prevalent. And
Yeah.
When we're down there bocce, and there's 3 or 4 of them riding and rolling, there's got to be a speed limit or something. And says, while I'm on Memorial Park, bocce, of course, again, thanks you this year for getting the electrical outlet in. We appreciate it. Would have been better in the middle because our extension cord, we need a longer extension cord to do the blower, but that's okay. I saw you put it where it was so cost effective.
Cost effective.
That's right at the
It's cost effective for the township,
Right
but
at the
these guys
bottom
had to buy a
electric
longer
service.
extension cord.
It was very good management. Not necessarily good publicity to the Phillies, but good management. And as far as bocce, the other thing is, and I know Deputy Mayor, if you could maybe add on your budget list, we're about due for carpet. To take a look at it.
Did you
I'll
say
send you some
carpet?
pictures. That's what the courts are carpeted with.
Oh, okay. Let me just make a note of that.
It was, and it's a little bit like Woodview Lane. It was last carpeted when I was in office.
Yes, that's harsh. But how's Woodview Lane today?
Woodview Lane is terrific. Union Landing, and I heard that conversation. Union Landing, I don't know what the plans are to this overall activity, but Union Landing still is desperately in need of biking access because those people that come up that hill and walk between there and Walmart, it's amazing the number of people that do that walk.
No,
It just really is.
I never realized it until it was mentioned in previous meetings, and every time I'm on Union Landing, I see somebody
Yeah, it's just-
walking from Hunters to the highway. And I'm not sure how close we are to that, but I know we've got the funding, and I
Well, I know they've
know.
done some markouts and some surveying.
Surveys.
Yeah.
Underway.
So
And they're
it's,
doing, they did some other things.
it's underway, so hopefully, in my lifetime, to quote Ms. Shepherd from previous meetings, in my lifetime, we will see sidewalks there.
I know the ladies aren't here tonight, so I'll speak on their behalf. Did we get umbrellas?
2.
23rd canopy, sir.
Huh? I'm sorry, canopies.
There are 2. I haven't been even to see them yet. They're up, right, Kevin?
23rd, right? 23rd is the due date for the installation.
Oh, they're not up
Oh,
yet. We have them
okay.
though, right?
Yeah.
Or they're up?
Ben?
No, we have them in, they're not installed yet, but.
23rd.
In time for fall.
Exactly. The sun still comes out.
Yes, it does. That's it, absolutely.
Cost effective.
Cost. I know, the other thing is the landfill. They came down and did, pardon my French, but a half-assed job of brush hogging along the side of the road, right? I mean, it's embarrassing what they try to get away with. We really need to do something about that. And who maintains the right-of-way access, the 50-foot wide or whatever it is, right-of-way access across from the Public Works? Is that still the landfill, or because that's a future access, does that fall in the township?
I honestly don't know.
I believe it's,
That's like Wallace Boulevard Extension.
yeah, if you were to follow Wallace Boulevard straight through. it would go-
Well, it kind of offsets, because
Yeah,
it comes
but
up
I mean,
right in
close enough,
front,
it's-
right in front of the Public
Yes.
Works building, because that's another one that's overgrown that needs to be maintained.
I don't believe the township owns that yet.
I don't think we own it, I think we have the right of access to it long-term if we want it.
We'll look into that.
I'm like Biden, I have a list, I check my list off, I'm done. I'll shuffle off.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. All right, yeah, good morning. Good evening, folks. Jim Francis, 804 Bellevue Avenue. Question about this presentation. When this study goes down, is this going to include like Cinnaminson Avenue, Highland Avenue, Union Landing Road, Taylor's Lane, River Road? So we're talking Route 130, but I mean, in a grand plan, go ahead.
I'm sorry. My impression is that they are going to look at Cinnaminson as a whole, from Pensauken to Delran to Mapleshade to Morristown to Riverton. Every street, every path, every sidewalk, just to see where they can create some kind of a pedestrian access or circulation infrastructure. So it's going to be the whole town.
And who funds this?
What's that?
Who's going to fund this whole, not besides the work being done, like this whole investigation as to like what they're going to do?
And I see Mr. Schubiger with his hand up over there. You want to take this?
Mind if I do that, Mayor?
No, by all means.
It was just one finger, but, okay.
My peripheral vision
So-
isn't what it used to be.
So their work is going to be funded by the township as part of our budget, because it's something that we found to be pretty important, and we had that earmarked. But what this will do is actually, one of the great things it does is give us access to secure more grant funding. So when we apply for grants, which we do, we've had some pretty good success lately with grant funding, but the funders love plans like this that are done professionally and involve your community. And when you have this and you include that in your submission, I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it really helps our ability. So the long-term, the work that gets done is later, which comes out of the work of this plan. And then it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, we just decide what's most important that the community wants. So it's going to be grant funding, and we probably, I'll be asking the governing body to approve some capital funding.